Hello, everybody. It's Sunday night. The name of the show is Intuitive Inc., and I am Servette Hassan. And I've got a really great show for you tonight. I'm so excited about this. I am a dog lover, as all you people out there know. And tonight I have Kac Young on the line, who's written a book. She's written actually many books, well, first of all, Kac Young didn't start out writing books. She was a producer and writer and director in Hollywood for like a million years, 25 at least. She's also earned a PhD in natural health and has a doctorate in naturopathy. 12 books, I think it is, that she's written, and probably by the time she's done, there'll be 50. But she's very prolific, and she's gung-ho on writing, but also she's a licensed religious science minister, so we know that they're kind of on the spiritual side, but they've got that feel to them, and that's also because she's a certified therapist, counselor, meditation teacher, career coach, you name it, she's done it, and it all spills out in her books. So welcome, Kac. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Servette. Thank you. It's my honor always to be on with you because it's always just such a joy to connect with you, and I mean that from the bottom of my toes.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to talk about one of the books. There's many. And we've had you, for people that know, you beautiful souls that follow me and listen, continuously, and I love you for that. We did one on your aromatherapy book, which I found fascinating because that was really awesome. But tonight we're going to be talking about the book that you wrote called the Supposedly, with little quotes there, Enlightened Person's Guide to Raising a Dog. And I fell in love with this book. It was awesome because you're a cat lover, but yet you still came around to doing a book about dogs, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah. What brought that on? Because really, I think at this point in time, you had 5 or 6 cats already, right?
Yes. And I just couldn't help myself. Every time I saw something that needed adopting or a new home, I would bring home a cat. So, I thought, well, maybe I should be in a 12-step program for cats or something because it seems
yes.
that I'm just out of control. But no, and I had raised several cats over my lifetime, and I adopted one in my 20s, and that was such a success. She lived to be 24 years old.
I know, I saw that in your book. I was just going to
mention
that.
Yeah, and even my vet was just amazed at the longevity that this cat had. Plus, she was full of spunk, and she sang with me, and it was great. So you kind of, after you have a few really fabulous cats and they live long lives, I acquired this sort of, maybe arrogance about, certainly a superiority about, oh, yes, I know how to do cats, absolutely. I'm a big cat aficionado, da-da-da-da-da. So, I had thought about having a dog, but I've met a lot of dogs that I really like. Certainly my co-author, Lisa Tenpin-Dolma, had a fabulous dog in the UK, and every time I would go to visit her, this dog Sky was just so charming and wonderful. And then she adopted another Romanian rescue one-eyed dog, and he was a nightmare when he got to her, but little by little, she would post on Facebook the process of how she was able to tame him and help take the wild out of him. And when I met him, we fell in love. Charlie and I just fell head over heels in love, and he was kind of I'll probably get it wrong, but he was like a pit bull kind of guy, but not really. No, that's wrong. He wasn't that at all.
Yeah, he didn't look like that. He looked. Yeah, he was a little more. He looked a little bit labby, like a lab with a mix of something else in him.
Yeah, and I think Lisa had his DNA done, and I think he also goes back to being part wolf and some other things. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I fell in love with her dogs, and I fell in love with, various other dogs. Mary Bell, who's my friend Tracy's dog, and anyway, I never thought that I would actually have a dog, but then I kind of thought, well, if the right dog comes around, I'll sort of find it. And then I wasn't thinking about it at all, because having 6 cats at the time is quite a handful. You have to deal with them. Just the litter alone keeps you up at night, So I was in Talulah Lake at a Christmas party, and they have a street fair during Christmas, and I was walking along and saw these 3 little dogs in the arms of three women standing outside a pet store. And they were really cute. A couple of them were Chihuahuas, and this one in the middle was this little sort of like miniature Tibetan Spaniel face. And she was shivering and looked really scared. And I said, oh, my, look at her. We had one deep look at each other. And I said, well, my goodness, too bad those dogs aren't up for adoption. And this chorus of 3 voices says, yes, they are.
Yep.
I went, oh no!
Isn't it true,
Kac, in River City?
Isn't it true, Kac, that your dog? I think everybody's dog really finds you. I don't think we actually find a dog. I think they find us. They just, and there was that look you had. I know what that is. I know that look. And suddenly you're done. You just know you have to have this dog, right? And that would be Talulah. You named her Talulah, right?
Yes, because I was in Talulah Lake, so I named her Talulah Lake. And she had been, someone had adopted her when she was a puppy, and they kept her 3 years, and they brought her back to a shelter. And there was a big, apparently, the rescue train in Studio City goes to events where the shelter puppies are, and they take on the ones that they think they can find forever homes for. So they had done this because Talulah had escaped from one of these shelter exhibitions, and she'd escaped out at the Pasadena Rose Bowl, and the head of the rescue train, Lisa Young, no relation to me, she went out 3 days in a row looking for Talulah. And finally, a vet called her and said, we have just had someone bring in a dog that's been hit by a car, we think it's the dog you've been looking for.
Oh, no. Really? Oh, God. Okay. Go on, I'm sorry.
Talulah had been hit by a car, and she had internal damage. Liver, heart, and kidney were bruised. But Lisa Young took her, paid all the vet bills, and then took her to a foster home, Paula Zwickley, in Studio City, fostered her for a few weeks. And so that was one of Talulah's first nights out to be in the real world after going through this 6-week trauma. And that's the night I met her. So I started talking to those people and said, I'd like to adopt her. And they said, hey, not so fast, lady. You have to qualify. We have to investigate you and who you are. We have to come to your home. I said, well, it's going to be hard because I live in Cambria, and that's about, 5.5 hours away. No problem. We will send somebody up there, but you have to qualify. And I said, but I want her now. So anyway, long story short, we went through all the rigmarole. I passed the test, and I got to take her home within like 3 days. I happened to have known. Well, it's funny because show business. Paula Zwickley had written for General Hospital. I happened to have been a producer of General Hospital in the 80s. And then her roommate, who was living with her, Diane Brownstein, happened to have been an intern back in the day. So we all kind of knew each other by connections, although indirectly. Yeah. And one of the people that gave me a reference is my very good friend Jackie Zeman, who plays Bobby Spencer on the show. And so everybody just was like one big happy family within 48 hours. And then I took Talulah home.
Look, there are no accidents. I'm telling you, everybody's connected here. Look, I have to ask you a question though. Here, how did you meet Lisa? Because you co-wrote this book with Lisa Tenpin-Dolma, who is a dog behaviorist, and I found her contribute. But the book is excellent because how you set it up is you tell your side of the story about bringing a dog into a cat family, basically, and how you adjusted to that. And then she gives her perspective on the same things that you're talking about, whether it be potty training or, driving in a car, all these things that you touch on that are issues. So you both tell your story together. How did you meet her? How did that happen?
Well, I met her online, and she had created the Glastonbury Tarot, and a very good friend of mine, Marlene Morris, had been investigating. She collects tarot, and she had been investigating this, and she was telling me about Lisa's Glastonbury Tarot, which I tell you and your audience, if you ever want to know what's going on in your life, go online, Google the Glastonbury Tarot, and you can have a tarot reading online. It's magnificent. It's all archetypal and all done in the style of King Arthur and Camelot. It's just absolutely exquisite. So I met her through that. We developed a friendship. She would read my book. I would read her book. We would help each other back and forth. We just became really, really, really good friends, like long-lost sisters. Mm-hmm. And when I was taught, and of course then I met her in person several times and her dogs. And she said, well, you need a dog, darling. And I said, no, Lisa, I've got 6 cats. Well, you could use a dog. You'd love to have a dog. Look how my dogs love you. And I'm, oh, all right. So this was, of course, in the back of my mind when I met Talulah. And I was arrogant enough to think that it was a no-brainer, that I could walk from cat ownership and success in my book, having cats, healthy cats, all my life, and knowing what to do for them and all that. I thought I could just transfer that, straight across, apples to apples, and, do this with dogs. Well, that's where my comeuppance came, and that's where I really, became a test of our friendship, because I would write to Lisa and say, oh, my God, I did this, and this happened, and oh, no, and why is this happening? Yeah, oh, my God, help me. Now, she, mind you, has a PhD in behavioral psychology for dogs. She has founded 3 or 4 organizations that are international about dogs. So she does not need to be answering my dumb little emails about, what I've done that's been stupid about a dog. But she was very kind and very patient, as was Talulah, as I sort of stumbled my way into learning how to deal with a dog. And it's different than cats. So it's not impossible. A lot of people are brought up with dogs, so it's not new to them. I wasn't. So I was on a steeper learning curve than most human beings. And I had a spirited animal who had been abused, we came to find out. And so there were other delicious situations to have to deal with. So I was confronted with a panoply of challenges. And that's where Lisa was invaluable. She would just say to me, do not worry about this. Let me know what's troubling you, and we will work through this. So that's how it began. I don't know if you're familiar with the book 84 or 85 Charing Cross Road, but it was correspondence between an American writer and a British book owner, a bookstore owner right around the wartime. Exactly. And they corresponded back and forth. And it was just lovely and touching and wonderful. Anne Bancroft made a film out of it. So we began this whole thing of correspondence, and I said, oh, my gosh, Lisa, this should be a book, because if anyone was as dumb as me, and I felt like I was about as bright as a wheel of brie, that I could help people, because as they approach adopting a rescue perhaps and have some challenges, then here are the answers automatically put down for them in a book. They don't have to do any guesswork. And that's how it began, is we began keeping notes of my foibles and how we solved the problem.
Right, exactly. And it's very, I have to say, enlightening. Because I have a dog. I mean, my Harper girl, that most people know, she's 8.5. I've gone through some very difficult challenges physically over the last 8-9 months that most people know about. And if you don't, you will. So shortly. But she saved my life. I mean, really. I mean, we just bonded even closer during that time. But I've never had a cat either. I mean, I think I did years ago when I was young, but it wasn't the same kind of thing. They're two entirely different. And I babysit cats. I have a wonderful cat named Maverick that I look in on for a girlfriend, and I just adore her. But it's a whole different world. So reading this book, Kac, the point here is that I didn't think I'd learn anything, or not much, because I've been through it all. She's 8.5, and I still learned some things. So yes, you're right about that, because like I didn't know if Harper hates driving in the car, and that you suggested, or Lisa suggested in your book, Bach flower essence, and I was like, oh my God, I never tried that. I thought I knew that. I didn't know that. I thought, so there's some interesting points in here that you can, so it's not just a rudimentary, well, if you weren't stupid, you fell in love with Talulah, and then you went on this little journey together, and then you sort of documented it, and you do learn something. And you learned a lot, didn't you?
I learned a ton. I mean, I started at square one, and through Lisa's kind tutoring and a lot of research I did on the internet. And what I learned is you can do as much research as you want, and then when the actual situation confronts you, you're probably not going to be able to handle it with just book learning. You're going to have to really deal with the situation as it comes up. So that's where it was helpful to have a little bit of background, but then also have Lisa right there to help me and say, well, okay, do this, try this. Now, certainly, the incident with the skunk
I had to bring that up. That was too good.
She thought it was just a squirrel because she didn't know. She wasn't a big country dog.
Yeah, just a black squirrel.
So I mean that's ordinary. That happens to a lot of people, and so we discovered that. But it was just kind of funny, and we did have sort of a pet squirrel outside. We called her Helen Keller because she was blind in one eye, and she would bump into things, and we would give her a little food from time to time. So Talulah was familiar with little Helen that was always outside the door and the screen. We'd give her peanuts and things. But when the skunk came up, I guess she thought that it was Helen, and oh boy, that'll be just fine. And then whammo, we all got a surprise.
Right, yeah, I know that was fun. That was fun to read about. Also, I have to tell people out there, because first of all, you have to get the book, The Supposedly Enlightened Person's Guide to Raising a Dog. But it's full of these really great pictures. I'm assuming, who took the pictures? I'm assuming you took some. Yeah,
I did.
But there's a lot with you in them. So who were you doing those too? I mean,
no, that was my friend Marlene who took the pictures and said, "Here, let me just hold that for you." So she was the co-photographer, or the Sue photographer, I guess you'd call it.
I knew. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I knew that you took a lot of Talulah and then later Truffle, which we'll get to, but and that I could see, but then the ones with you in them, like I could see you like learning to walk Talulah, and who's walking who is the name of that chapter, and then you could see the picture, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that looks familiar to me, where that dog's just taking you for a ride, and I thought, oh, I wonder who took that picture, and I thought, so now we know.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Exactly, and that's always fun because one of the key problems with a dog is that they bark a lot, and then the other one is that they pull on the lead, and so even the people at, and I'll mention the name, Petco said, oh, get this one that's retractable, and they can run a long way and then they can run back. Well, that is the wrong kind of lead to get ever, because first of all, you can burn your hand on it because it's a rope, and second of all, it gives the dog false permission. What you want is the dog to walk by your side, and so you carry a little container of treats with you, and you get that dog, and then you stop. You don't go forward, and you don't yell at them. You don't do anything. You just stop, and you give them a treat when they stay by your side. And if they start to pull, you just stop. It's sort of like, no, we're not going forward. And you don't want to yank on the leash. You don't want to pull them back. You don't want to strong arm them. You want them to make the decision to stay by your side. And you do that by being immobile, by not moving forward, and by giving them a treat for the positive behavior. And I think that's what I really had to learn the most is with a cat, you don't, if you think you can train a cat, you might as well just lock yourself up in an insane asylum because you can't train cats. Well, a couple of them, a couple circus acts have them, but they also generally keep them on let's say a medication so that they are, that they follow orders a little bit. But, cats aren't really things that you want to train. You want them to just be who they are. Dogs, on the other hand, love boundaries, and they love pleasing you. So the more they can please you, the happier they are. That's why just a couple years ago, I think a dog act won America's Got Talent. And they were so happy. The dog is well cared for and loves to please its master, and the master is very kind and consistent with the dog. And so it works in a routine. Certainly none of us need to be on a stage, most likely, but we do want our dog to behave well. And I learned from Lisa the positive training, and it doesn't have a big collar with reverse spikes on it, and I had bought one of those sonar collars that makes a little impulse to the dog, and she said, no, that's not safe and that's not good. So I took that back, and I just did the old-fashioned reward, and that's what keeps Talulah, who is a wild thing. I mean, this child is a wild dog. It keeps her contained because she wants to please me. So that's how that behavioral thing works, and it's very simple. You just have to put the time in, and you have to repeat it. But she was a star in her dog training class. I did go to Petco for dog training classes with her, and I had to put the time in with her because she would obey the trainer, but then is she going to obey me? Maybe, maybe not. If I'm there and take the training with her, then I'm going to know her triggers, and she's going to react to me. So it really is kind of a mommy and me situation. You need to be there for your dog.
Right, exactly. I think that's important because they tell me that most of that training, when you do take a dog to training, is for the human.
Yes.
More than the dog. Okay, so and true, your book does go into myths that we think are true, like dogs really actually want to dominate you. They don't, and you go on about that in the book, which is really clear. So I think there's some awesome good points in there. But now the one question I have to ask you is, how did you integrate Talulah into a house where by then you had moved? You weren't in LA anymore. You were in a little further north, right?
Yeah, we moved to Cambria.
Right. So how did you, and you finally got the authorization, you bring this dog home. How are you going to incorporate that dog with 6 cats? Well,
the magic word is baby gates. And I got a couple of baby gates, and I decided that the house could be, like the east side would be the cat land, and the west side would be dog land. And they would have to operate, and so I had to change where I fed the cats. We had to change some litter geography, but they could sniff each other and smell each other through the gates. I made sure that the cats could get through the gates if they wanted to, but the dogs couldn't. So it was the cats who were going to be curious and explore. And I mean, they had lived there the longest, so I thought it was only fair in the hierarchy of who was there first. So they were then able to explore and smell and sniff and get used to things. And one of the other great ideas was crate training. And another friend of mine, Hadley Fitzgerald, had said, be sure you crate train your dog. So I asked Lisa, and she said, oh, yes, that's very good for the dog because it knows that that's its safe house and it's fine, and certainly because the cats have the rule of the bed, and it wasn't going to be fun with the cats and the dogs, and I would have had to move out to the local motel. So they had to be separated. True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. We like it. Where are you going to be? On the couch?
Yeah. No, you're in the hotel down the street. No, you do have to clarify though, because crates are good. But I overheard a woman in the dog park a couple of days ago. Not maybe more now, but she's worked with a lot of dogs as a trainer and a groomer and all these other things. And one of our friends at the dog park just got a new dog. Her other dog just passed not too long ago, and she has one called Pippin, who's adorable, and they wanted to get her another friend, and they did. And he's still not potty trained, and they said, well, just keep him in the crate, and when he finally actually does go, then you can let him have free run of that. It was using the crate. What I got from this conversation was using the crate for punishment, not for good things. And somebody else,
that's a good point.
Yeah, and somebody else chimed in after that woman left and told her, hey, maybe you need to reconsider putting your dog in the crate for punishment. And you talk about that in the book. So I know crate training is good as long as it's not because my daughter has a dog, and if you say Sing Sing, that's the name of the crate. And they often have the door open of the crate, but you say Sing Sing, he goes in there, he loves it in there. It's his safe place. That's different.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and you must keep it as that. I mean, you do not use the crate as, quote, the dog house, unquote. That's not where he goes when he's bad. That's where he goes to be safe. And I'll tell you, I mean, you know, Servat, that we were just in the Thomas fire, and we had to evacuate, and our house was damaged in the fire, and we literally had 7 minutes to leave. Well, I had the dog sleeping in the crate because we evacuated at 11 o'clock at night. I mean, we ran in the car down the hill with the flames lapping at the back of the house. So if I hadn't had the dogs in the crate, it would have been much more difficult because I put them out on the patio immediately, and then we rounded up the cats, literally, here's a cat, here's a cage, here's a cat, here's a cage. And when we got everybody stacked in the car, then we took the dogs out of their crates and took them freely on the leash with us. But if it hadn't been for that, it would have been, a nightmare. I don't know if we would have been able to get everybody out in time to get out of here and save our lives. So that is another sub-reason why I think crate training for nighttime sleeping is a really good thing. And if a dog is ill, if it goes to its crate and it's happy in its crate, then that's wonderful because it can recover and recuperate, especially if it has any kind of a leg injury or a foot injury or something like that. It can recover in its crate. And you can I have a smaller crate for them for sleeping, but if you would have a dog that's recovering from something, you'd want to get a larger crate and some really soft bedding and keep the dog in there while it heals. But it's not a punishment. It's a place of refuge.
It's a safe place for them. That's a huge point I wanted to make, and you did. Well, thank you, Kat. Kat, we're halfway through the show already. So I'm going to open the lines for anybody that wants to call in. But in the meantime, how would someone find you or your book? I imagine it's everywhere you like to buy books, like Amazon and everything else. But
yes, the book is published by Hubble and Hattie in the UK, but it is available in the United States in bookstores. It's available, of course, on Amazon. And I think if somebody wants to buy it in bulk, if they are a bookstore owner, they can call Quarto Publications. You just look it up, Quarto, or you can email me. You can email me, Kac@kacyoung.com, and I'll give you any links that you need to the book. I don't sell it personally, but I do.
But you can send them to the right.
Anybody wants to have a dog book party, I'll be there and sign.
Good, fantastic. And I'm going to spell your name for people because Kac is unusual. So it's Kac Young, YOUNG.com. Or no, Kac@kacyoung.com, right?
Right, KAC. I always like to say Kitchen Apple Charlie.
Kiss and Apple Charlie, I love it. Yes, Kiss and Apple Charlie. Young, too. So I like that. No, that's awesome. So people can find you if they need to. So I'm going to allow anyone that has a dog or a cat or cats and dogs and want to know more information about how to integrate them, because I know part of this was really awesome that you could talk to someone who's such a pro like Lisa, and together you have some really good advice in this book. But if anybody wants some now from Kac, please call in. It's 949-313-8880. Again, 949-313-8880. We'll answer Kac will answer any questions you have about making a big family out of all these beautiful animals. Now, you said that you had Kittyland where you had the pet gates. How long did it take before you were able to take those the animal gates down? Did they all integrate?
We worked towards that integration, and it was about 6 months before we were able to really lower those gates. And it all happened because I moved to a different city, and it was a bi-level house. So there was no way to put up gates. And so when we moved in here and we let the dogs out of the crates, we said, okay, 1, 2, 3, everybody's integrated, good luck. And, of course, we supervised and, ran around crazy and made sure everybody was fine. But they were just fine. I mean, we still have the dogs wait so that if the cats don't finish their dishes, that they'll run right in and help out. So they're the little dishwashers. But nobody has a hissy fit over everybody. We feed the cats first, the dogs wait and watch, then they get their food. So it has become really amazingly compatible.
Oh, how wonderful. And they're all friends? No issues between, or they all got along? I mean,
No, I mean, if somebody crosses into somebody else's territory or scares them or walks up on them or something, there might be a little, but small, nobody goes after anybody.
Well, nobody ate a cat yet, so that's good.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know what my dog would do around a cat. She's never been around a cat, so I can't. And I've gone and babysat my girlfriend's cats and fed them and taken care of Maverick. But I got to say, when I come home, Harper gives me dirty looks for like at least an hour. She smells it on me and she just does not understand. I'm sure if I brought a cat home or brought a dog and a cat, it's a different story, but she just gives me these weird looks like, oh, where were you? Like, you cheater.
Exactly. You cheated on me, Mom, and I know it.
And you cheated on me with something that does not smell right. I get in big trouble.
But I think if people do want to integrate that, they have to first think that, who's been here the longest and honor that sense of territory. So that you don't just bring something in, toss it in, and say, here, have fun. You really integrate, you keep people isolated in different rooms, you keep the baby gates, you have ways that the animals feel safe in their own territory. Right. And I think I want to read you a quote because I love this so much. It's by Edward Hoagland, and he said, in order to really enjoy a dog, one doesn't merely try to train him to be semi-human. The point of it is to open oneself to the possibility of becoming partly a dog.
Oh, nice.
And Lisa brought that out to me. She said, get down on your hands and knees and take a look around from the eyes of a dog. Look at your house and everything and see how scary it is or how oppressive it is from where a dog lives. And then if you just do that for a while, you'll understand the mind of a dog a little bit better. You'll understand what they have to relate to. And it was kind of strange because I thought, that's an odd thing to do, but okay, I'll try it. So I did. And and it does enlighten you.
Well, and you know, I have to say something. I dated someone a while back who, not for very long, but he fostered greyhounds and was very passionate about it and loves his dogs. Like, he's a real dog person, really a dog person. And something hit me one day. We went to some kind of greyhound event thingy, and he was in he put up a little fence around an area, a grassy area. We were all outside, and I turned around a little while later, and he was in there laying on the grass with the dogs. I mean, he was really into. He really related in that respect, because he was down there with them all the time, not just then, but. I mean, and that's why I think he could foster them, because it's really difficult when those greyhounds come from Mexico. They've been raced, they've been abused. It's a horrible thing. And they integrate them and they train them and they get them healthy and then they find them good homes. It's just a wonderful thing. But it's part of that. I think the reason he's successful at that is because he acts like a dog, which is probably why we're not together. No, that's another story. but no, I mean, I totally understood that when you said that, and Lisa taught you that. So, and there's just really good advice in all areas. I mean, you touch on everything. You touch on foods that they're toxic to, boarding them, groomers. I mean, there's all these, besides the skunk story, I mean, there's all these other stories that are really just fascinating and interesting in how you learn. And I did read about Charlie, because I think he was from Romania, right?
Yes.
So she must be good at what she does, because she's been taking in these dogs. A lot of these dogs in the UK come from Ukraine and Poland, Romania, all these countries and they're wild. And they haven't had anything, and she, she really helps. I think it's an amazing job that she's doing as well too. Is there a way?
Well, it is. She's created such a following and such an organization where people were dog helpers, rescuers, dog lovers, dog trainers, just dog aficionados can all speak together in a forum and handle situations. I mean, we certainly know that some of the countries do terrible things to the dogs to clean up the wild dog situation right before big events, and it's very cruel. I've witnessed some of it in my life when I was in India, and we need to educate the world. We need to get people to do alternative thinking. We need spay and neutering. We need to stop people from buying from pet shops and only adopt a rescue. We need to train people so they feel secure when they are adopting a rescue and that they just don't take them back. We need to educate people about breeds and what they grow up to be. We need them to know what they're getting before they take it out of the door and then bring it back disappointed, unhappy, and then we have a ruined dog and a disappointed person, plus another mouse to have to find another home for. So everybody needs to be educated, and I wanted my book, Sarah, to be entertaining enough for people that they would pick it up, that they would buy it for friends, that they would take it out in the world, that would help people learn in a fun, humorous way that isn't onerous and it doesn't make them wrong, but it shows them from my point of view that I had to learn too, and I'm happy to open up and discuss this at any level because, after all, if we save lives, we can save enough human lives, but we also have to respect our animal brothers and sisters, and that's where it really, really matters. We don't treat them badly. We don't allow them to fight. We don't do that. We love them and care for them because at the very center of owning a pet is that mirror of love that we get back. Whatever we put out, we get back. So they are the best mirrors to us of our spiritual, mental, emotional growth. And when we can go up the chain of ladder of love with them, we grow as human beings and we help our planet. We increase understanding and everything gets better. The vibrations raise when we have a dog in our life and we love it correctly.
Hallelujah. I know. I love that. It's so true. No, it's wonderful. It's so true. It is, because really, honestly, I think, I don't think I could trust a person that didn't like animals, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's something in you that they open your heart, and when you love, I don't care if you're loving a person or if you're loving an animal, whatever it is, it's still love. You're spreading love, you're spreading joy. It's just, they're just, I can't even tell you, I don't know what I'd do without Harper. She's my baby girl, and I actually call her that a lot, baby girl. It's like, come on, baby girl. And she knows. Like I have the language we use, like you talk about that in your book too. I say go potty, because especially at bedtime, because I don't live in a home with a big yard anymore, so it's kind of like we're out for our last walk. So can you go potty, please? And She does. She does. I mean, it's just amazing what they can do for you. I think, and science, it's proven that people live longer that have animals. There's a reason for that. Science is kicking in now with all this data we're saying that before there was no proof for. Now there's proof that they can make you well. They can smell cancer before a person's diagnosed with it. There's amazing things that animals can do, especially dogs.
It is, and they can use their senses. They have, the hearing capacity at least 3 times better than humans, and a smell capacity 14 times better than humans. So they can use that for the benefit. That's why they're so helpful to aid the blind, and that's why they're good dogs to live with people with disabilities, because they can anticipate. They're trained to anticipate situations. They're trained, of course, about lights, and they're trained about how to cross streets. But, animals are remarkable, and if they're trained positively, they can change our lives, too. And Talulah certainly did. I was on the advice of Lisa. She said, well, maybe Talulah's discomfort riding in the car and howling and not settling down and being so nervous and shaking, maybe she just wants to be up with you. And I said, yeah, but she's too wiggly. She won't sit still. And I didn't want to restrain her. I had tried various different seats for her and various different straps and wraps and things, and nothing would work. But when I accidentally, again, got another dog, because I went to the local shelter to deliver to them some blankets and pillows and things that they wanted to have donated on their wish list, and I went there and I met this other little dog named, we named him Truffle, and he came home, and she went, okay, thank you, that's my puppy, I've got it, that's my puppy. Now I don't even need to see you except at dinner time. And it was terrific, because she became in charge of this puppy, and he was 1.5 at the time, and he's Zen puppy. He's the sweetest little boy, and that calmed her down. Now they're buddies. They walk shoulder to shoulder. They go everywhere together. He loves her, she loves him, and so the companionship and the mutual that developed between them instantly just took my breath. But that gave her the ability to be alone without somebody. So her anxiety and her sense of separation decreased with this dog, because now she had a buddy, she had a pal, she had a comrade.
Oh,
and that was the
best
thing we did.
Wow. So now when they travel together in the car, they're fine, right? All right.
Yes, they sit side by side in the way back, and I keep a little safety chain on them for any kind of, accidents, and they're just fine. There's no whining, there's no carrying on, and they look at each other and they check with each other, and they're just best friends. So if we take him out to get groomed, let's say without her, then she's just a wreck. She sits out by the window and waits till he comes back and checks him out, and then she looks at me and says, all right, you brought him back. That's the last time he's going out. Okay, Talulah, we understand. But she's very, very mindful of her puppy.
I know that's her baby. But what about the cats? Were the cats again freaked out, or did they just like, oh, okay, no big deal? Or, I mean,
well, by this time the cats were kind of emailing Lisa all the way through this and saying, what have you done to us? We were perfectly happy. And your influence has ruined our lives.
Sure.
And then Lisa would write back, and then I would read it to the cats, and then they'd every time they had an issue, they'd email Lisa and blame her for everything.
Oh yeah.
So when trouble got here, by that time, so that they were so jaded, all they did was roll their eyes and say, what is going to be next? I mean, they started out as 1 and 2 cats, and then there'd be an addition, and that was tough enough for them to get used to each other. Then they were a happy group of 6, and then I brought a dog home, and now a second one. So they were like, ay, ay, ay. And their outlet, of course, I think was emailing Lisa, and she was good to write back to them. So they were all fine, but it took a while. They would just kind of stare at me as if I had lost my last marble.
I love it. I gotta ask. So was your husband emailing Lisa too?
Well, actually, I have a wife, and
I'm
yes,
so sorry.
She was. Wife. Yes.
I just heard partner, and I read in the book somewhere, I think it says your husband. So I don't know why that happened, because I took it out of the book. So anyway, we'll have to fix that.
I have a former husband, but not a current one.
You know what?
Did I refer to my former husband? Maybe.
That was it. It was your yeah. But at that time, he was your husband, and so I didn't know that the husband was gone. So there you go. That explains it. Cleared it up for me.
There you go.
So now you're a partner. You're what? Now, we're in there. Was that just fine? Was that you both agreed because you knew and everybody got along? No problems? No adjustments?
With what? The cats and dogs?
We have a call. Well, we'll get to that. I know, because I wasn't clear about that. But let's take the caller's call, because we're running out of time here. So here we go. Hello? Hello? Hello, caller? Hello, caller? Okay,
hello.
Hold on.
I have enjoyed listening to both Kac and you about dogs and cats and coexisting. And I have had a dog almost continuously for 23 years, and I have been pleasantly surprised to have had several very smart cats. And my experience is that cats operate on a similar wavelength as dogs. They know when you're coming home. I had a cat who would wait by the door for me, and whether I was driving home or walking home, about 20 minutes before my arrival, she'd be at the door waiting. My husband would witness this. He'd know when I was coming home. And fortunately, we did a lot of things intuitively that the book. He just wanted to play. And while one cat was terrorized and upstairs, the other cat was smart and realized if she did not run, he could not chase her. So she just sat down and he froze. But they're the ones that tolerate each other the best. And mostly we just kept them separated upstairs and downstairs until everyone realized this was life and it wasn't going to change back. And they all get along just fine now.
Awesome. I love it. So there's no real question then for Kac. You're it's just a comment on how you found the same experience in your life as she did in hers?
Yes. And I was always a cat person, just because I never lived in a space big enough to have a dog. And I think for me it's easier to read a cat than it is to read a dog, but I've gotten better. And I would completely agree with you that they mirror us. And if we can live our best selves, then our pets help us continue to travel up that ladder. So I look forward to reading your book.
Well, thank you very much. I think you'll find some fun things in it because we're very similar in our cat aficionado and then moving into dogs. So I think you'll find some fun. And, do stay in touch and do let me know what you think because I would love to know that.
Oh, I will. Thank you. And thank you for writing the book.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, caller. Thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. Keep listening. Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
Thank you. That was nice, wasn't it, Kac? People are listening.
Oh, that was so sweet.
Wasn't it sweet?
Yeah, and they having had the same experience is great because it does work. And cats and dogs, they all have their personalities. All we have to do is just make sure that they're safe and that they feel safe, and then they'll work it out. Just like our caller said, they will work it out.
They worked it out, and your cats and your dogs did. And your wife did, so we're all good. That's where I was going with that. I was just going to say we need to all be on board and check in with, because there's some good points in the book, not just about some things I didn't know about, things that foods they're allergic to, how to train them, how to get them to walk on the leash like you were talking about earlier, but also just about why you should get a dog, and did you check with everybody in the family, and are you, what's your lifestyle like, what age do you want, all of these questions that it's very helpful for people to go over even before they get any kind of animal, but especially if you're integrating animals and bringing a new one on board, because it's another responsibility. I mean, you talk about pet insurance, things like that a lot of people don't have that you should, right?
Well, it's helpful because, dogs need their vaccinations. If they're going to be outdoors, they need to be vaccinated against heartworm and parvo and lots of things. They need to have that protection, and they also will need medical care. They need their annual checkup. They'll need, if anything happens to them, they'll have to have X-rays or looked at. And rather than be surprised, I mean, if you're not going to have pet insurance, which is only maybe usually about $600, $700 a year, if you're not going to have pet insurance, then set aside a pet fund because there will be expenses, and you do need to take care of your animal. There are certain things you can heal holistically. I have many books on holistic cat and dog care, and I do a lot of remedies at home as well, but that doesn't preclude something when they really, really need allopathic medication and they really do need a veterinarian to look at them. So, yeah, I would say be sure you're financially prepared to have a cat or dog. I mean, I do see a lot of homeless people out with their dogs, and some have cats, and maybe someone helps them keep that cat or dog healthy. But there are issues. I mean, just like us, we need to go to the doctor too.
Right,
so
exactly.
Pets do as well.
Yeah, I do. I totally agree. It's a fascinating book, and Kac, you're wonderful. And it's KAC for everybody out there, KACYOUNG. And you can reach Kac at kacyoung.com. And the book is, again, called The Supposedly Enlightened Person's Guide to Raising a Dog. But it's also about the supposedly enlightened person's guide to raising themselves, because that's what happens in the process, I think. It's awesome. And you're just a great writer, too. And you've written 12 other books, I believe, right? 12? Is that the right number? There's a lot.
Well, it's now 15.
15 books, people. And they're all good. So do you have CacYoung.com as well if people want to go in and just see what else you've done and what else you're doing at the time?
Yes, go to CacYoung.com. We're still we're making some changes on the website right now, but it's you can still get to it, and there's a shop, and you might be interested in all kinds of books. As you mentioned earlier, I have written a book on essential oils. It's called the Healing Art of Essential Oils, and there are other books there about Bach flowers as well. I've written a book, The Quick Guide to Bach Flower Remedies, so that's there too. And all kinds of different wonderful books for self-help, for amusement, for just changing your life the way you want to have it and being the best person you could possibly be.
Exactly. And they may be amusing, but don't be deceived. They're also enlightening. They're also very helpful. They all have some information we could all use. Kac, you've been wonderful. I wish I could talk to you for hours. And I could, actually, but I can't right now. So we're just going to have to wrap it up and call it a night. Another great show. I love you. Kac Young, and the book, again, is the Supposedly Enlightened Person's Guide to Raising a Dog, and you are fabulous. Thank you so much, and God bless you and all your animals, and may you all live in peace and happiness and love.
Thank you so much. I love you too.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you. That was awesome. She's wonderful. I loved her. I love her book. I'm not kidding. I don't do that. If I'm okay with it, I'll just say I'm okay with it. I will never not say much otherwise, but I really do love her. And again, you can see her, you can find out anything you need at kacyoung.com, KACYOUNG.com. You can find out anything you want to find out about me at servethassan.com, SERVETHASAN.com. Both of us are updating our website. So, but in the meantime, you can still get a lot of good information and go from there. And then we'll as time goes by, stay in touch, keep looking, and the websites are changing and going on to bigger and better things as she is. She's done a lot, 15 books. Wow. I think I've done 5. That feels like a lot to me. Anyway, you can go to her website to find out anything you need. Go to my website to find anything you need. I've got, you can email me there as well, serveth@servethassan.com. I love to hear from you all, and I'm available for private consultations. There's going to be blogs and podcasts. All that's coming up because the website's changing. And life goes on. It's only getting bigger and better, onward and upward. And like I always say at the end of the show, be you to the full, because that's what's truly beautiful. That's what makes your life happen. Just be your authentic self. Love you, and then everything else just will come along. And that's hard for people, and it's not that narcissistic love. It's be you to the full, which is beautiful because you're loving yourself. And please do that, because I love you too. Good night.